I'm Julie Zenner along with Dennis Anderson, and here's what's coming up on Almanac North.
Well, the 2018 Martin Luther King tribute continues all weekend here in the Twin Ports, culminating with a march and rally on Monday.
The City of Duluth's comprehensive plan is being reimagined with plenty of citizen input and more opportunities for involvement ahead.
And we'll have the week's business news and excerpts from a special swearing-in ceremony for a new Duluth City Councilor.
Stay right where you are. Almanac North is next. Hello and welcome to Almanac North. Thanks for watching. And Denny, it feels like we are deep in the heart of winter right now.
There's a whole lot more to come, isn't there, huh?
That's what I hear.
Another chilly weekend.
I keep praying for spring.
It'll be a while.
Well, we do have some hot topics tonight, so
right.
Let's get right to them, okay?
All right. Thank you very much, Julie, and good evening again. Well, the Twin Ports is honoring the legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. with several days of events and activities. Now, the effort culminates this coming Monday, January 15th, with a march and a rally on the day of the federal holiday for MLK. So, joining us now with more is Salaam Witherspoon, co-chair of the MLA committee, and Janet Kennedy is a member of the Mayoral Planning Committee for MLK events. And Carl Crawford, who is the Human Rights Officer for the City of Duluth, may be joining us yet before this broadcast is over. Well, Salaam, let's start with you. The theme of this year's event is Birth of a Nation. Why that theme and what's it all about?
So Birth of a New Nation is actually a sermon that Dr. Martin Luther King did in 1957. And it was after his return from Ghana. So he was pretty inspired when he returned.
Mm-hmm. And basically, what did he say in that speech that really started the birth of a nation?
I believe it was on the nonviolence theory. So he spoke a lot about the fact that it's oppression without violence, and that the aftermath of nonviolence is the creation of a beloved community.
Mm-hmm. Janet, why is it important for the community to, year after year, honor the legacy of Dr. King?
Well, I'm really excited this year about MLK, and yesterday we were fortunate enough to have both the mayors, Mayor Payne and Mayor Larson, do a proclamation and how we're coming together to, eradicate racism and coming together as a beloved community to build leadership in all communities, and making sure we're just moving forward on some of what Dr. King fought for in the civil rights. And if I could go back, one of the things that came out of the Birth of a New Nation for me is one quote I will read. An old order, and this is from Dr. King, an old order of colonialism, of segregation, of discrimination is passing away now, and a new order of justice and freedom and goodwill is being born. And that's what we're doing, and that's what it means to me, and I think what we're moving forward in our two cities.
Wow. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the events that are planned? I know they've already begun this weekend.
Yeah, so yesterday was the mayor's proclamation, the mayor's reception. Tonight at Peace Church, they're having Rhythm and Hues, so we're having some performances. And there's an offering for the Reverend Foy Scholarship. Tomorrow we'll have Youth Nation at Denfeld High School. That's the youth coming together, and they'll be participating in events about history and coming together as youth across the city. And then Sunday is an interfaith at First Presbyterian Church. Interfaith communion and singing will be happening there with Dr. Barker. Monday morning, there's the breakfast, and then we have the march and the rally all on Monday.
Mm-hmm. Salaam, where do you see the most progress being made in Duluth as you look at how the community is evolving in terms of racial relations?
I see it. I see really with leaders coming out, and there's a lot of new spirits around that are like new innovative people, and they are looking for a place to fit in. And so I feel like there's becoming more spaces for them to use their gifts and talents and feel welcome in this town.
Are there places where you think that the community still has a really long ways to go?
There's a lot of places where I think the community has a long ways to go, especially with just meeting after meeting and sitting and talking about the same conversations. It's like people kind of know what people have been saying for years, so it's time for more action. I think if we turn some of these conversations and discussions into more action, that it would be nice.
Here's a question for both of you. Are we making progress in our schools, or is there still more to be done?
There's always more to be done. I feel like there's more to be done. You know, there's some issues that we've been talking about in the community about equity. You know, but looking at equity not just in the school system, but looking at the social determinants of health, looking at our economic viability, housing, and all those things. I think that they're important. You know, looking at it through a lens of how are we creating more intersectionality, between us all, and breaking down those barriers between race, gender, class, age, and ability.
I personally think that I think that they are welcoming more partnerships, and then they're bringing more community into making progress to move forward and to work on some of those issues that are prevalent. But I feel like the conversation is definitely going around, and we're about to make some progress.
What's being done within the community itself to try to emphasize the importance of education and within families to prevent people from dropping out of school, because the dropout rate is so high in our community, particularly among people of color?
I feel like the community is more aware of that, and so that forces us to kind of be more involved, and also it allows doors to open for people to do that groundwork and create it with the policymakers to say this is what we want and this is how it can be done, instead of people making decisions for the community. Get things that are more community driven and get more community involvement. So I feel like that's going to be evolving soon.
Janet, you had mentioned on Monday now there's a community breakfast, and then that's followed by a march on the 15th of January.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that march. We've had marches almost every year now for several years in the city. Who generally takes part in that march? What would you like to see as far as a community turnout?
Well, it's a great march. We're fortunate that many of the kids have school off. So a lot of children around the community at our schools participate. We get a lot of community members who usually, maybe are working and things like that are able to participate. But we all come together. I think it's a collaborative sort of representation of what our city is, and it's really important to the African heritage community.
Can you tell us like some times where would marchers meet, and to where would you walk?
Yeah, we begin at meeting at 10:30.
10 a.m.
10 a.m.
Sharp.
So this year.
Yeah, so 10 a.m. So they're going to be they're going to be rehearsing the chants. There's going to be buttons that people can get refreshments. So there's going to be actually like a little line that people can go down to get their buttons, refreshments, and chants. And then also a map is printed so people don't get lost going down.
So where would they meet? Where does all
at the Washington
Washington
Center.
Center.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So they're leaving at 11 o'clock sharp from the Washington Center
To where?
to the deck.
Okay.
Janet, what's the value for people of all ages and races to participate in a march like this, to them, and what's the value to the broader community?
So the value to the community is becoming a beloved community, and if we are going to build a new nation, we need all hands and all people there. It's so important that when we can come together as and celebrate such a great man's legacy, that it increases our humanity for all of us together. So coming to the march, whether you can march or not, you can come down to the deck and wait for the marchers to be there if you're not able to walk. So.
There's a Freedom Fund dinner in February. What's that all about?
Yeah.
It's groundwork of the revolution. So it's an annual fundraiser that the NAACP has, and there's new people that are currently in the NAACP, so we're actually just starting this again. So I think the last one must have been like 20-something years ago. So it's gonna be funds to use to really, really help the NAACP do some work. Like, I know there's a rapid response team, there's an education team that is really gonna be proactive in the community, and so those funds will be directly applied to some of the things that can help us move forward and really make a difference in the community.
What's the end game as you look ahead? You know, the marches have been going on, you know, as Dennis mentioned, for many, many years. Do either of you envision a day when the marches don't occur anymore because you've achieved the goal, or will this always be part of life and culture and celebration for?
I guess I would hope that someday we wouldn't continue to march, but the march can also mean, is a celebration. It's not always about fighting for civil rights that we don't have, because we do that every day. The march is a time for us all to come together to do that. But I know a lot of the work that I do and a lot of work that Salaam does and a lot of work the NAACP does is day on,
Would Dr. King notice many changes today from the time he died, if it were possible for him to come back?
I don't think there has been that many changes. I mean, if that was the case, because the last question was pretty deep, and so I guess that wouldn't have been even a question if if there has been some changes. So there's a lot of work to do. Do I think it's ever going to end? I'm not sure.
Yeah, okay. Well, Salaam and Janet, we thank you both for being here, and all the best for the rest of the weekend.
Thank you.
All right, thanks
for having
Great,
us.
Daele.
It is a tremendous honor to be in service in our community in whatever capacity it is. And the counselors tonight, Counselor Cypress, Counselor Filipovich, Counselor Russ, Counselor Vanette, will give tremendously of themselves. They will be challenged, they will need us, they will need you, and together they will make great decisions on behalf of our community.
For the past year, the City of Duluth Imagine Duluth 2035 initiative staff has been working to engage local citizens as it updates the city's comprehensive plan. They've held more than 100 public events and analyzed nearly 5,000 citizen surveys in the process. This week, a public hearing was held, but there's still time to learn more about the revised plan before it is sent to the City Council for approval. And joining us with more is Kate Van Daele, a planner in the Duluth Planning Department. And Kate, thanks for coming in tonight. Really appreciate it. Some people might not know, what is a comprehensive plan and how is this tool used by the city as they kind of make their decisions going forward?
That's such a great question. We like to start with the basics. So a comprehensive plan essentially is a blueprint that the city uses to plan for our growth and for how we use different areas of the city. So when we're thinking about where is a good place for industrial businesses to be, obviously there's places in Duluth that we think of right away. There's also areas that we think of for preservation, and then areas that we think about for residential that might have some sprinkling of businesses in there with churches and schools. And it's all of how we use those areas and how we use them now, and then how we also can plan to use them in the future.
Kate, are there portions of the plan that should be of top priority?
There are. I think kind of what I will mention with that is that every time that we update the plan, there's different topics that we look at. And with this one, there's 5 areas that were of kind of concern, not concern for us, but that were really our top priorities. And so those were our housing, our economic development, open space, energy and conservation, and economic development. And so really those 5 areas are how we are planning to get from 2018 to 2035, some of the trends that we're seeing right now and some that we're anticipating in the next 20 years.
So I imagine you started by looking at the comprehensive plan that's already in existence, which was created, 2006?
Yes.
Has the city changed much since that vision was put together, so that the vision that's emerging is markedly different from the one that we had back then?
That's a great question. I myself have been in Duluth for 2 years, and I feel like in the 2 years I've been here, Duluth is night and day different of when I even thought about moving here. So to update the plan from 2006, yes, that's the entire reason as to why we decided to do an update and why Mayor Larson encouraged us to do an update at this time, because since 2006, our downtown looks different. We've had major businesses that have expanded in this time. We've had more people move to our city. And so with that, we really need to think about how we're using the city right now, what resources we could use, and how we could be promoting different neighborhoods. And so that's why we're doing our update right now.
Kate, a lot of folks may not even know there is a comprehensive plan. So what are the plans for the city to keep the public informed as to how that plan is working?
Well, Dennis, I'm really glad that you asked that. In 2006, when we did the update, and that was the update from our 1927 plan, just to put that a little perspective, we actually were able to contract out that work because we weren't able to do it in-house. And the plan was great, and we still are able to use it. But I really think there's a difference when you update the plan internally. And so that's what we've done with our department. And that really started with the recognition that we needed to involve the public. And so we did that from day one. We've had 123 events that we've attended in the last year and a half. As you mentioned, our survey with over 5,000 respondents to that. So our priority has been to hear the public, to listen to the public, to get their input. And I think Mayor Larson has said, we're hoping that as now we're at the end of it, we really hope that the public hears that we have heard them, and that their choices in words and their expectations of the plan are reflected in the policies and strategies that we have as a part of our various chapters.
Has there been good representation across all sectors? Because there tend to be people who go to meetings and then people who don't go to meetings. How do you reach those who have an interest in our stakeholders but just aren't meeting people?
Well, that's a great question. We can't do it all by ourselves, which is why we're so thankful to have as many community partners as we've had. We've worked with over 70 different nonprofits and businesses in the community to get out the word that we're doing this work. The other thing is that really how we communicate is so different. There's people that have time to go to meetings and there's people that don't. So we've really tried to be intentional of getting into the workplace to meet people where they're at. We've also done a lot on social media. We have a Facebook page. We've done Facebook Live sessions where people literally can watch our updates in the privacy of their own home on the couch, you know, having a cup of coffee or taking a break from their favorite TV show. So we've really tried to be intentional about reaching all audiences. And when we're not doing a good job of that, we've also been lucky to have the community tell us that so that we can respond and make changes in how we're communicating.
So as a result of that, then, are there core investment areas in the city that you're trying to address?
There are. So we have 12 areas that we've identified of different neighborhoods, and those, just a few of them are Lincoln Park, Piedmont, Woodland. And what we're looking in those areas are really how people connect. I know in my neighborhood, I love being able to have the different resources that are there. These are areas that we're noticing that there are not always enough places for people to meet, whether that's having a recreation center or coffee shops. There's also food access issues in some of these neighborhoods that don't always have a grocery store, like in Lincoln Park and some of our neighborhoods out west. So really looking at the infrastructure, how people are engaging with community members and being able to offer not only solutions but resources to be able to grow those areas, and that's why we call them our core investment areas, so that our neighbors and our neighborhoods can really prosper and reflect the work that we're doing.
As you hear from all these diverse voices out there, are you getting a sense that by and large people are pretty pleased with the direction that the city is going in? Are you hearing concerns that, you know, kind of make you go, huh, maybe we ought to be thinking about that too?
I think the positive with having so many meetings is being able to hear that we're doing a good job, and at the same time, we're always going to hear from people in the community that there are things that we could be doing better. And the people that remind us that we could be doing better are those people that I want to focus a lot more of our time on, because we can't please everybody, but we should sure try. And so we really have tried to do that with having as much outreach as we have been having, and to be able to kind of have a pause. The other thing I think is different with this plan, in addition to some of the things that we haven't done in the past, is that we have benchmarks and ways to hold ourselves accountable. And we realize that things change, and so being able to have the option to change the way that our policies are and our implementation plans so that they reflect things that might be changing in 2 years, in 5 years, in 10 years, so that we're still relevant and still meeting the needs of our community.
I would imagine some of the people are expressing needs for jobs, for employment here in the city. As a result of that, is Duluth due for a population boom? We've been remaining stagnant now for some years.
Well, I think that we have seen some increase, Dennis, and we're looking forward to increasing more. But I think the thing that we need to remember is that housing has also been a really big part of our plan that we've been hearing. We know that we're shy of 4,000 units in 2013. We've increased the amount of units that are both rental and owner occupied by about 1,400, but we still have a ways to go. We need to have more affordable housing, and that reflects the businesses coming into Duluth. It also includes us making sure that we're taking care of the businesses that thrive here, that are expanding, like Lowell, like Cirrus, and so many others that we could name, like Duluth Coffee Company, that we really are so happy that they have made Duluth their home, and we really want to make sure that we're also getting folks in the door so that they can thrive in those businesses as well.
So implementing this is really going to not just involve the city, but also really depend on a lot of private and public investment to make this vision reality.
It is. We couldn't do this without the public. That includes our business owners as well as our community members. And so just like from the very beginning, we've had their involvement. They have really helped direct this plan, and they will continue to help direct this plan. And that's why we'll have an annual report so that we can be able to communicate where we're at, and then get additional feedback from those that we're serving on if we're missing the mark, or if we could be doing better, and or if we've already exceeded some of the things that we've said that we're going to do.
Now I understand you have an event coming up in February called the Cold Front.
We do.
Talk about it.
It's a perfect day to talk about a cold front, I think.
I think so.
We have an event called Cold Front, as you mentioned, and this is an update from our Imagine Canal Park, which was a grant that we got from the McKnight Community Foundation. And so that is an event that we are trying a few things out to see how can we get more people to Canal Park in the wintertime. So there's going to be s'mores, there's going to be an ice skating rink along the carriage trail, there's going to be a snowman building competition, lots of vendors, the largest happy hour in Duluth and largest coffee break in Duluth. So a lot of fun things, very family orientated. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're already having hotels saying that they're getting filled up for those weekends, people that are coming in to watch the football game that we're hoping that the Vikings are in, and also just a really good time to celebrate the great businesses that are in Duluth.
All right, we'll have some information on the screen about that. Kate Van Daele, thank you so much for coming in and sharing information about the comprehensive plan. You make it sound exciting.
We hope so. It is exciting.
Thank you,
for
Kate.
having me.
Thank you. And it's time now for the business news from the editors at Business North. A Minnesota administrative law judge on Thursday recommended the Pollution Control Agency's wild rice rule be rejected. The agency proposed a complicated system of regulating the discharge of sulfate, which is said to harm wild rice fields. The ruling came 2 days after the MPCA advised against granting a variance for U.S. Steel's Mintac plant, also related to meeting sulfate limits. It is not known how the two opposing decisions will affect each other. All the affected parties say they want to improve wild rice habitat, but an affordable system to reduce sulfate has not yet been designed.
Another mining plan took a significant step forward last week. PolyMet's proposed precious metals project was issued a draft mining permit by the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources. If approved, the permit will outline the framework to ensure the company's mine complies with state law and will be conducted in a responsible manner. Public meetings will be held February 7th and 8th, when draft air and water quality permits will also be discussed.
Xcel Energy has announced plans to develop a 1-megawatt solar garden in Ashland. Through the program, customers who lack space or resources to construct their own solar panels can invest in a community garden operated by the utility. Plans call for the garden to be built in 2019 near Xcel's Ashland Service Center. It'll be the company's third in Wisconsin, following one energized last year in Eau Claire and another planned for the La Crosse area this year. For more on these and other stories, visit businessnorth.com.
If you have a comment or something to say about our show, we would love to hear from you. Dial 218-788-2849 to leave a message. You can also send an email to almanacnorth@wdsc.org and visit the WDSC website for updates on our broadcast schedule and news and information about the station and special events. And Denny, speaking of special events, we want to thank everyone who attended the Making It launch party last Sunday. It was a great turnout for a great beginning for WDSC's latest show.
Always fun to see a new program come on air. We wish it well.
All right, for Denny and the crew here at WDSC, I'm Julie Zenner. Have a great weekend, everyone. We'll see you next time.